Hello everyone, this is a video by Free Name on YouTube on how to open up and replace the bezel or bracket or hinge on this HP Pavilion laptop, model number 14-C-E2501SA and otherwise known as product ID 7KG11EA, and then in the UK or Europe it's probably got #ABU, and then other countries like Australia it might have a different number on the end there. So the problem with this one is on this side here, it's probably blurry and not in focus. Let's see if I can fix that. Apparently not. Oh well. Anyway, the bezels come away, and if you look at it, or if I move it, you might be able to see that the metal bracket is no longer attached at this point to the rest of the screen. So I need to take probably the entire machine to bits to get to where the bracket's attached there, and swap the screen into a new surround. So let's get to it and see whether we can be successful at this. I'm going to start by trying gently, without breaking the screen or the bezel, to remove the bezel. Feels like it's taped on for some of it. Wow, feels like it's taped on for maybe all of it. Oh no, there are some plastic brackets along it as well. So this is going to be probably frustratingly difficult and maybe very easy to break this this bezel. Let's feel along there. Yeah, there's definitely glue along this lower bit here where it attaches to the LCD panel. So I'm going to have to just scrape along and break the tape. They've gone full on Apple with this design, I think, where it's going to be using a lot of tape, double-sided tape, to hold stuff together. There's a bit of it undone. There's a cross between undoing the tape and also some clips that run along the top. Just being very careful that you don't bend that beyond a point where it might snap, and especially down the edges, that's going to be something that's going to be very easy to accidentally do. Right. And again, you can hear there's tape holding it together down the bottom there as well. So I can already tell this is going to be a real pain to put back together. Because I'm not likely to have some more of that tape to put on. So I'm just going to have to hope that what I'm doing is not damaging it beyond usability when I do put it back together. Or you'll need to find some high quality 3M double-sided tape or similar to replace the bits that have had to have been removed. So I've got down almost to the very end, and now it's whether it's clipped on at the bottom or whether there's more tape at the bottom, which is entire unknown. And I may leave it like this and come back to this once I've got the display removed from the rest of the machine, because then it'll be easier to work on. I can already tell that there's going to be some hidden screws on the underside of this, which means peeling up the stupid plastic feet. No, thanks HP. Really would have preferred a better design. Definitely gone silly with this design. No, there's no chance that I can figure out getting that out, I think, without the rest of this being unscrewed and accessible. This is also going to be very difficult to film because the way it is, I need to get this to a point where you can see it, where also there's enough space at the back of it for the screen to remain open. So let's see if that works. Yeah, maybe, just about. Oh, and the machine's decided to switch itself on. What a mess. Let's sort out the brightness. I'm going to start by checking, first off, whether I feel like there are screws under these. It doesn't feel like there are any at the front. Feels like there might be two at the back, there and there. So that will be peeling up the corner of these feet, which is HP's signature move for being generally annoying to open up. Yep, there we go. So I've peeled up that corner and I can see one screw there. Let's undo that. And then it's a very good idea to remember or note down on a bit of paper and then put them down on a map. Or what I do is I place them on my desk in a map of where they came from, so that when I put the machine back together I know which screw came from and goes into where. So that screw is not undoing, probably because of the smashed bracket, which actually might indicate that I'm going to have more trouble later trying to screw this back in and making it secure. No, I can't get that screw out. That's just turning and not lifting out, because whatever it screws into on the other side, which is probably a little plastic bracket, is must be smashed and is just turning. But I really would like to retrieve that, because it might be a problem if the plastic bracket is on the other side of a motherboard, for example, and then I'm trying to pull the plastic bracket through the motherboard. It would just cause more damage. So what I really need to get is something underneath the screw to force it upwards whilst I turn it, and hope that the screw lifts out. Quite often this trick works, but it doesn't really appear to be working very well at all. Aha! Brilliant. That just about worked. So, premonition is this machine is going to be a nightmare. Screws at the front use something that is smaller than that screwdriver, so I've got some little jeweler's screwdrivers and use one there, one in the middle, and one at the end. So I'm pretty sure there aren't any screws under these. So over here, when you do that, it drops down at this bit. When I do it over here, it doesn't feel like it does. I will, just to be sure, and just to show you whether I'm right or wrong, lift up the corner of one of these, Yeah, so there's no screw under there. So we've undone 2 screws there, 3 screws at the front, and I think we will now be able to try and remove this cover. Always use a spudger for doing this. Don't use a flat bladed screwdriver because you will cause damage or scratches, or just generally is not the right tool. You need to use a very thin metal spudger. And I will also use some cheap eBay phone screen replacing things to help me keep the bit that I've opened already open, because otherwise it just has a tendency to clip shut again, which it has just done then. Oops, and again. Right, that's now got to the point where it isn't going to just randomly close on me. So my metal spudger is too flexible at this point, so I do need to use this plastic one. Plus also it does mean that if I do go slightly too far and touch the motherboard, that isn't going to be an issue. Cool, that is not undoing over there. I've managed to undo the entire back part on that side. So I'm surprised I'm struggling so much. There we go with the front. Why can't they make machines serviceable these days? Hey, right, slowly getting there. Cool, I have to be so horribly brutal with this to get it undone. Right, so the only bits that is not undone now is this bit at the back, but it looks like I need to partially close the case to free up. There we go. Free up that. I don't know whether that's going to be easy to see, but that this plastic white bit on the screen needs to be behind, or not behind, but it needs to be free so that you can take the case off. So now I've got that, I need to undo this final bit there. And now the only bit that's clipped is this final bit at the very back. And now the only bit that's clipped is this bit here. Come on. Hey. It's flexing, it seems like it's stuck around there, which probably means that there's a plastic tab or tang or something similar, which, there we go, just twisting it a little bit. So what was holding it in still was this plastic tang there. so twisting it or just sliding it a little bit will have undone that. What a nightmare to get into that was. I don't believe that I undid that, so I don't know why the wireless aerial is not connected anymore. But potentially it was me opening that up just then, but it could have never been connected. Also weirdly, not sure about that. Anyway, let's reconnect that aerial now, rather than forgetting to do it later. And let me shut the machine off, because it's turned itself on. Oh, a bit of plastic's fallen out from inside the case. Okay. Now, we've got 2 screws there holding the screen on, and 2 screws here holding the screen on. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's undo the broken side first. So the screw I was having trouble with on the underside case was there, and I'm going to assume that the bit of plastic that's fallen out there is going to be related to that screw. So when we take all of this off, I think the rest of this and its little lug or nut that it goes into is just going to fall out. Having said that I needed the aerial plugged in, I actually need it unplugged because the aerial will go into the screen and I'm about to remove the screen. So I do need that aerial, does need to be unplugged. So that's something to keep in mind. Also the video lead will need to be unplugged, which I need to identify where it is. It must be this one here. I'm going to undo that. So to undo this, you get, you could use a tool like this and hinge up, but in my case I just use my nail and that hinges. No, it is definitely more sensible to use something like that. That hinges upwards and it releases this connector. So there we go. That's just lifted out. And then I need to unstick that lead, so that's now free. Moving on to the 2 screws on the opposite side. And I'd hope at this point, barring losing or not noticing a USB lead for the webcam in the screen, that should just lift out. Alright, there we go. So that's the panel, and we'll delve into this screen in a moment and I'll show you the problem. Inside the machine we've got battery and RAM, which is removable, or at least some of its RAM is removable, which is quite unusual. CPU is here. That CPU is soldered onto the board, so you're not going to be able to upgrade that. You've got the storage, so that is an NVMe drive there, the Wi-Fi card, CPU fan. What other things might we have that are of interest? Probably a speaker here and another speaker there. And the peripherals board, so you've got, I think, a card reader, the headphone jack, 2 USBs. You've got the power jack. If you smash this, it looks like it's fairly easy to replace because it's just a little fly lead and the connector onto the motherboard. Over here, you've got HDMI and USB-C. And that's it. The heat pipe here that takes heat from the CPU and then goes into the bit where the fan blows through. Going back onto the broken screw point, and indeed there's the nut that I was trying to unscrew from, which has just entirely been smashed. So when I'm done, this side of the case will always be the weakest point, because the screw that will be going through the case to sandwich that hinge in place is missing. So I'm going to have to make sure that these 2 points here are done up very well, because they will be the only thing holding that together. And worryingly, it actually looks like this bit here is already smashed. So that one's probably alright, but this one's also going to be difficult to do up tightly without potentially causing more damage, so it's got to keep an eye out for that. But yeah, what a nightmare to work on this machine is because of its extensive damage. Here is the replacement part. Hopefully we're focused down onto that. So we've got the 2 hinges which are taped together. I mean, there's no wonder that broke. Those are so thin. So ridiculously thin. AJ Potts lint-free cloth, presumably, or cleaning cloth. And for good measure, a replacement back panel. So I've now got to actually complete the removal of this bezel. There we go. So you've got to put a spudger all the way down between the edge of the white and the black, and then it does unclip. But that's definitely not, again, easy to do. We do need to keep those, at least one of those. No, there's 2 of those. Little plastic covers down here. That, try and get this hinge out the way. No. Those will be needed later. So there's the broken hinge. So if I compare that with which of these 2 is it? It's the one with those 3. It's that one there. So it's just fractured, or probably stress fractured, or maybe if it got dropped on that side or whatever at that point. So all I really need is just this replacement hinge. Needs to go there. So it's, do I transplant everything out of this, which I'm not sure I really will do, and then use that? I mean, considering the screen looks like it's probably glued in, which is what these little blue tabs are, rather than being mounted in with screws. Right, so this hinge bracket, I need to unscrew silver screw up in this corner. Please be a sensible size. Yeah, good. I can use a proper screwdriver for that. And now hopefully I can lift out this faulty, cracked hinge. Although it's clipped in down the sides. There we go. So that's the faulty bit. Right at the bottom here, where the other side of this is also smashed, where the screen brackets screw in, so it's definitely worth replacing this. There looks like a little tab poking out, which I hope is to undo that adhesive underneath the screen. Not really sure how, so I think this might be a bit like those command strips that you can put on walls, where if you pull on it, just the act of pulling on it removes its stickiness. It looks like this is the case. I'm hoping that it doesn't just break on me. I've pulled on that, and we'll see what happens over time.
Damage your echo stop. RP is there from Whisper onto 2. He's going to die shortly after, though. ETO doing a decent amount as Roche still quite healthy. Tomato, he's going to have to try to BKB-TP, but the pulverize is there, and it looks like Roche will be taken by Spirit. The waiting game works out.
Yeah, they waited so long and they were so patient, and what a read that this was not going to be a Roche kill for OG as long as they played the perimeter like that. Really important detail there that Laurel has a shield rune. It gives him way more confidence to just jump in like that, and he gets RP, but they can't kill him. Sven, first of all, OG are also very fragmented. I feel like this is a really good replay to watch about why this is so difficult and such a good play from Spirit too, because OG's hero placements in this situation, they're not tight. Like, with Spirit waiting this long and OG trying to both scout the area and to Roche at the same time, they end up losing out. And now they're also going to lose a squirrel. A little bit of a
well, remember you, Ari. And now they have a Dagon on Mira to be able to clean up at least one of these DK illusions that are so annoying. Make it 2. Alright, so they have a way to deal with the Mantas. Or the Manta from DK. Alright, so Aegis on Yatoro. Cheese on Collapse.
It's funny because this was a meme when it was changed, right? When Dagon was like, it can one-shot illusions, people were like, oh, wow, great, you know? And now we're actually starting to see it, this item being used to kill off illusions.
What's the Manta cooldown versus the Dagon cooldown?
You have it every time.
Every time?
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
Dagon level 1 is 27, and the Manta is 30.
Whisper gets his shard. Has the Shadow Blade as well. It's seen that a couple times in this tournament. We've even seen a couple silver edges.
Oh,
Collapse initiation. Forces out the BKB from Tomato. The RP from Whisper to just use it defensively and try to run away. But there's the Electric Vortex finding the DK. BZM already at half HP. As Laurel basically out of mana. But Mira gets the RP. Collapse finishes the job onto BZM. And now the Yules going to keep Whisper in play. We'll get off the skewer, but dies in the midst of things. Jatoro is actually going for the tier 4 towers. Double buyback now onto OG. And Spirit going to back away a little bit. A little bit ambitious to go for those tier 4s as BZM in that dragon form again.
There you go, take your time. My advice is do take your time, because if that thing that you're pulling on breaks and snaps underneath the screen, there's probably no chance of getting back or getting under there to then continue pulling on it. So do just be very careful and take your time. Now we get onto the lead, which goes to the screen. There's glued on or taped on down here. Again, further ridiculous HP decisions. And the trouble with doing all of this pulling and moving of the connectors around is all increases the chance that you're doing damage to the cables while doing that, and then you'll have to replace the wiring loom as well. Right, that's now free. I hope I can lift up the panel. Nope, still glued down. That's the... right. Let's see if I can move that forward. That's the screen. Now what I'm undoing now is the USB up to the camera. And once again, this is such a thin trace wire that the chance of the camera not working once you're done is really high. If I knew that this machine was like this, I wouldn't have taken on this job, because I've got easier things to do, really. Right, we're up to the webcam. Now, I suspect the webcam's probably bloody glued in, but we'll figure that one out. Another glued in component. Okay, double-sided tape, I think, on this. Yeah. What a stupid design machine this is. Okay, panel is now free from the back of that case. And the other thing we don't need to move, and in fact on the replacement I've received is better, or upgraded. This one has only one aerial on it and one point there. And the new one I've received has two aerials and two aerial connectors. So that's interesting. I'm done with this old mounting point with its broken screw points. Now I know from taking these hinges out of the other one that trying to put them in after the screen is in place is going to be impossible. So I do need to attach these first before we drop the screen into place. In fact, dropping the screen into place is going to be such a nightmare, because I've also got to put the webcam in place at the same time, and it's just the worst, this machine. Well, let's drop down, that's in there. One screw's in place. Three screws are in place, one more to go. And then I've got to do the other side. Don't like the way that that's not staying flush against the edge, but I don't think there's much I can do about that. That's just the way it is. Three screws there. Right, the hinge on the other side. And that is also now in place. Let's do the top screw. There you go. And I need to retrieve the large black screws from the broken hinge. Second one's in place. Third one. And the final one. Right. So now I have got to drop the panel where it belongs, which will also glue it down at the same time, which is also very scary considering there's not much scope for getting it wrong, because then it's going to be permanently glued down, or at least you could remove that, but then once you've done that, you've then got to get another set of those to be able to have a second chance at it. So yeah, real nightmare. I also didn't pay attention to exactly where this lines up. It could be there, could be there. There's a lot of scope in that movement there. I think that's correct where it is now. Cable in place. And I have somehow twisted that, so I need to rotate that all the way around. Now that's flat. It needs to go down there. Not quite straight. Whoops. Hopefully, I can't see why that wouldn't be good enough. So here goes my one shot at this. Let's just see. If I do that, can't. Why does it even need to glue in? Other than, I guess, maybe it's using the screen as part of the structure. So I left that, so it actually just wiggled up and down a bit, giving me another chance of moving it or getting to replace the screen if I needed to. I wonder if that's a sensible compromise. The screen would be wibbly. Well, that might not be, because when I put this bezel on, we've got the stupid bits of double-sided glue or tape. I'm very tempted to do that because it does mean it's more forgiving for a mistake. If I take those sticky bits off now, drop it in, and it's somehow not straight, or the screen is damaged at the end of this process, then that's the end of this process basically. So I'm keeping my options open, not gluing that down. You can obviously do what you want, depending how confident you are in performing this repair. But for me, I hope you'll forgive me if I don't bother doing the glue. I'm also wondering, because the Wi-Fi card, I know I can hide that connector inside the machine. I was going to say if I just tuck it into the screen, the unused Wi-Fi card, but no, I should be able to work with that. So let's see what I can do here. That needs to go around to match that other hinge. Need to put these on back where they came from. Yeah, it feels like this left side does not appear to drop down into place in the same way that the right side is. I'm not really sure why. I don't see anything obvious. Ah, maybe it has now. Maybe? Well, that's definitely looking flush now. Doesn't feel very secure, and it's clipped in at the top. There's no ability to clip in at the sides, so that's just the residual glue that's left holding that together. Where I feel this was clipping in earlier, it doesn't feel like it's clicked down here, which is a bit unusual because it was quite easy earlier to do that side of it, so I'm not sure why. Ah, there we go. I better not go back to having this side undone. I think there's a lot of tolerance in this machine. It's definitely been designed for form rather than ease of construction and repairability. Right, time to attempt to screw it back onto the rest of the machine. It's also got dark since I started this. So drop that down into place. Hopefully that stays put. There are 4 screws on these hinges. One goes there. One goes there. These need to be done up fairly well because this is what keeps the massive amount of pressure when you open and close the lid goes onto this section here. So just be very aware that these need to be done up well so they don't come undone, but also not too tight that you break the thing that it screws into. This two over on the right hand side, or probably your side, left side on the video, are the 2 adjacent to each other. Good. Now, video connector back in. That needs to go in as far back as it can so it sits flush. I don't know whether you can see here, but there you can see these two little yellow or white tabs are visible. If you put the connector like that, that is wrong. It needs to go all the way into the back. Then that hinges downwards to keep it in place. These aerial connectors need to be chased along their cable guide. And then in my instance, only one of them needs to be connected into the Wi-Fi card. The other one, probably due to the model of Wi-Fi card, doesn't need connecting. These, you need to make sure you get them absolutely centre before pushing them down, because otherwise you will deform the connector or break the connector. They're also so tiny that it is incredibly fiddly. Nope, there you go. That got clicked down onto there, and it's going to sit nowhere close to any exposed connectors. Make sure these hinge screws are done up as tightly as I dare. Good. Right. Get rid of these boxes again, turn it on once more, and then I'll put the underside on, and hopefully we're done. Does it still switch on, and does the screen still come on? Yeah, it does. Excellent. Right, time to put the underside back on. So now I can do this because I've not got the broken hinges. While I'm holding the hinge brackets, because we're missing two of the screws and the underside plate, I'm going to close that because it's going to make it a whole lot easier to work on. Find where I put the underside of the laptop, which is right here, and click it all the way around, back down into place. Then jeweler's screwdriver for the front 3 screws. There's one. There's 2. And 3. And now these next 2 are probably quite important, because certainly on your one, if the brackets inside are not broken, the 2 screws here are part of the hinge assembly, and they keep the hinge and screen together. So make sure these are done up again as tight as you dare without breaking the fairly rubbish lug or nut that's inside that will just be held together by, so that's the nut that it goes into, and then it's only held together with these stupid flimsy bits of plastic. So on this side, on this one, I will not be able to screw this in, which is a bit worrying and will reduce the lifetime of that hinge. I'll try and put that in here. It's just going to turn and turn and turn, because the thing that it screws into has fallen out, and the brackets that is heat pressed into or heat staked into is broken. So that's basically nothing I can do on that. But it does mean now when I open that, the whole thing does not fall to bits, because the broken hinge has been replaced. Hopefully that video has been helpful to you, and certainly you can learn from some of the mistakes that I've made, like don't take the work on, because this machine is a nightmare to do anything on. But got there in the end. See whether, yeah, it sees a lot of wireless networks, so the wireless is still working, and there's only thing I can't easily check is the webcam, because I can't sign in. So there we go. Hopefully you enjoyed it and it was helpful, and good luck repairing the machine that you have to repair. If it has been helpful to you, it would be really helpful to me if you wouldn't mind subscribing to my YouTube channel. You don't need to have the notifications switched on, but the subscriber numbers really do help. Thank you very much.